What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of That Dynasty Show. As always, I am your host, Mikey Ostrowski, joined by my good friend Tyler. Tyler, how we doing today, buddy?
Wonderful. It's always a beautiful day when I get to talk with you and get to hang out with our friends. Whoa, sorry, dog just jumped up on the bed. Uh, all right, get out of here. Don't want to put that image up on YouTube. Um,
Making a guest appearance.
yeah, not the guest you want, not the part of the guest you want at least. Um, so I guess if you guys like what you're seeing in this video, yeah, drop us a like, subscribe. That's the easiest way for us to pop up on your feed. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting from you guys. Some of you guys from the very beginning. I think we're putting out our 20th video or it's
No, I
15th
think
video.
this is only going to be like our 15th, I think. Yeah, something like
15th
that.
video, and yeah, we're having like 100 views a video, getting like a subscriber or two a video. We're inching along, and we're really happy with the progress we've made and the support we've gotten from you guys, and it motivates us to keep up with putting content out. So thanks for the support from you guys.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah, and this is going to be our 15th video. We did officially hit over 2,000 views on our channel recently, which is really cool. I don't think either Tyler or I expected to get to 2K this quickly, or 26 subscribers this quickly. So pretty sweet. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. And while you're here, we got a video for you today, and we're going to be going through round by round, and we're going to just be picking out the worst value pick in every single round by the sleeper ADP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to look at 12 picks at a time. So obviously picks 1 through 12 are going to represent the first round, 13 through 24 the second round, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and I will share my screen here. So Tyler, I will ask you first, and then I'll see if I agree or not. So these are the top 12 guys, right? You can see it here. It's Josh Allen through Dak Prescott. Which one of these guys is the worst value in the first round of a dynasty startup superflex?
So for me, this is really early for Jonathan Taylor. It would be between either Jonathan Taylor or Najee, because when you look at everybody else in this first round, they're gonna last you a lot longer than those guys. I mean, they're cornerstones that you're going to be able to build your franchise around for a long time. Kind of talked about that in the last video. These are the guys that are literally going to last you another 7 to 10 years, possibly. And some of the quarterbacks even longer, with the way the NFL is now. I mean, Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris just have the shortest shelf life by so long compared to all these other guys that I definitely wouldn't want to take Jonathan Taylor at 104, and I would also be looking away from Najee at 110.
Yeah, I think you're gonna hate my pick here because originally I was gonna say Najee, but for me it's actually gonna be Kyle Pitts. I just can't get behind drafting a tight end this early. I know that Kyle Pitts was absolutely awesome as a rookie, but I don't necessarily trust Atlanta to make the right moves for the next couple of years, the foreseeable future. He's a very similar size kind of player to Drake London, and I know they're playing different positions, but I mean Kyle Pitts is practically a wide receiver out there, right? So it's just a little too rich for my blood, and it's nothing against Kyle Pitts. He's my tight end too, only behind Mark Andrews. But the way I view the tight end position, it's like, well, I can wait until the middle of the second to get Mark Andrews. I can wait until the late second, early third to get a guy like Travis Kelce. So for me at pick 11, especially in a super flex, it's just way too early for me to go out there and get my tight end while, a quarterback like Dak Prescott is on the board, or a running back like DeAndre Swift, or a receiver like T. Higgins, Cooper Kupp, CD Lamb, those kinds of guys. So Kyle Pitts is probably going to be my guy here. It's really hard to find guys that aren't a value in the first round, or I would say have bad value in the first round. I would say this ADP is pretty accurate, right? Like Kyle Pitts, even though I don't want to take him at 11, I'd still take him by like pick 15 or 16. So it's not super far off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the argument for me would be, for if I was going to argue for Pitts, and I probably would in this scenario, is that, I mean, Dak Prescott is probably the last quarterback that really gives you a significant advantage at the QB1 spot. So, I mean, if you're drafting like Kyle Pitts, if he turns out to be what we think he can be, he's a 6 to 7 point, maybe even 8 or 9 point advantage over the rest of the league's tight ends, And other than that, I mean, if you're not going to get one of those top tier quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kyler, then I can get behind going for that positional advantage and that youth, knowing it's going to last me a long time, and also just knowing the quarterbacks that are also still available in the second round. I mean, especially, I mean, if we're talking about a draft here, if I have the 111, then if I'm taking that positional advantage in Kyle Pitts, I know I'm getting a decently valuable quarterback at the 202 or the 202.
Yeah,
Um,
and
that's
that's not a bad argument at all. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. We both kind of, Najee Harris was my pick two here. Najee Harris was your pick two here. It sounds like it was between him and Jonathan Taylor. And just the reason for that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's like the oldest sophomore running back the league has ever seen, right? I mean, obviously he was fantastic last year. He had a really big workload, but it's not like he was insanely efficient or anything like that. I can't imagine he sees 90 plus targets again. Plus the offensive line is still on the up and up. I mean, you never know. It's just it's weird because with the Steelers, there's a very good possibility that between Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, they don't have a quarterback, quote unquote, clicking for them until the midway point of next season, right, in 2023. Because rookie quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett, he's going to take a little while to come on. And Mitch Trubisky is Mitch Trubisky. So if we fast forward to when this Steelers offense might finally be clicking again, Najee Harris is going to be almost 26 years old. You know what I mean? So it's just tough. It's not bad value here getting Najee Harris at number 10, but I think you could wait on a guy like that. Like I would take Dak over both of these guys. So I don't know. It's not too bad.
I mean, with Najee, they've actually come out and said that they're going to reduce his workload this year just because they want to increase his longevity. But I mean, even so, he's within the next 2-3 years, he's going to have however many carries and touches on his body. I mean, there's going to be no avoiding it. He is that bell cow back, and if they didn't give him those touches, they would be doing themselves a disservice by not getting that production out of him. Honestly,
yeah, he's kind of an injury waiting to happen. Not this year. I think he'll be fine this year because he's still young. He had a big workload last year. He'll still have a big workload this year, even with a quote unquote reduced workload. But yeah, it just not my thing at number 10 there, but still, again, not very far off. So we'll go ahead and go into round 2 here. So it's pick 13, and I can't get this scroll perfect. Whatever. We deal with what we deal with. So it's getting cut off a little bit, but pick 13 is Cooper Kupp. So we have Cooper Kupp through Trey Lance. Tyler, what's your pick for the worst value of round 2 here?
Ironically, I think it's Russell Wilson, actually. We know what Russell Wilson can be, but it's hard to convince me that he's getting better weapons in Denver than he had in Seattle. And we know how poor he played last year as well. It was just not the Russell Wilson that we've seen of old. And it's entirely in the range of possibilities that he comes out and does not put up a quarterback 5 season. And that's what you're drafting him as. When you're drafting an aging quarterback at 20 overall, you're drafting him to be a top 7, top 6 quarterback for the next 2-3 years. And I don't know that he's going to get that value for you. Whereas we see everyone else on the board here is an ascending asset. I mean, besides maybe Cooper Kupp, but I mean, there's no denying what Cooper Kupp does for your fantasy team. And I mean, yeah, Russell Wilson, I'm going with Jalen Hurts, and possibly there's a strong possibility I'm going Trey Lance over Russell Wilson as well. I mean, I think they have if you can guarantee me that Trey Lance is going to be a quarterback for the next 3 years, pretty much. I mean, that's what his contract's writing out as. And you can't promise me much further beyond that with Russell Wilson. So, I mean, I don't see myself taking him over anybody else on the board here.
Let me ask you this. If they were switched, if Russell Wilson was going pick 24 and Trey Lance was going pick 20, would that change your answer?
Probably because of how confident I am about Jalen Hurts being a good fantasy quarterback and Breece Hall. But I mean, if they were switched, then my answer probably would have been AJ Brown here, because I probably would have with Waddle or Higgins over him.
See, I think my answer here is going to be Trey Lance. I was actually also tempted between Russell Wilson and AJ Brown. But I mean, there's no denying AJ Brown's talent, right? Don't love the situation for him in Philly, but I'm not going to downplay that severely and say that he's not a half decent value at pick 23 overall, right? Still too rich for my blood. I think he is. Cooper Kupp was the third wide receiver, then CeeDee Lamb. I mean, AJ Brown going at wide receiver 5 is actually pretty damn rich from my blood now that I'm thinking about it. And I'm going to change my answer because AJ Brown is my wide receiver 10. Taking him at wide receiver 5 at pick 23 overall, that's too early. I was going to go with Trey Lance because he's only my quarterback 13 in dynasty rankings right now, and I think that's pretty early to take a guy who we've seen play 2 games in the NFL. I know earlier today the 49ers released that Jimmy Garoppolo is officially allowed to seek a trade with his agent. So it is Trey Lance's job, right? Like, that's not a question anymore. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be taking snaps away from Trey Lance moving forward, but we still also just don't know what we're getting out of him. So it's between him and AJ Brown at 23 and 24. But if I had to choose one, I mean, it'd be a coin flip. I would say both of them are kind of bad values, though, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to AJ Brown, it's like, all right, there's other selections that I like after him, and a guy like T. Higgins, who nobody even talks about this, but he got more targets than Jamar Chase did last year, and he's just in a much more explosive offense. And also, when I look at Russell Wilson, it's like if I want an aging quarterback for the next couple of years, I'd rather wait for Matt Stafford or Aaron Rodgers or even Tom Brady. Like if it's going to be for a year or two, then I mean, or a couple of years, then that's kind of the route that I would want to go if I'm talking about value.
I agree completely when it comes to Russell Wilson. He's a top 10 dynasty quarterback for me. Getting him at 20, it's not my favorite value, but I like it more than AJ Brown and Trey Lance in the second round for sure. But I agree with that completely. If I'm going to go for a guy like Russell Wilson, who is getting a little bit older, plus he's in a brand new situation in Denver, right? I would rather also wait for Matt Stafford. I would probably take a shot on Aaron Rodgers a little bit later, or you know me with Derek Carr. Like I would take Derek Carr straight up over Russell Wilson. So I mean, Jalen Hurts is a screaming value here. I think we could both agree on that with the amount of fantasy upside that he has. But yeah, not a big fan of Russell Wilson here either. So we agree, right? With the same 3 guys, and then in the first round, aside from Kyle Pitts, we had the same guy too. So we're on a roll. Let's move to round 3 here, and why it's really hard to get this perfect. Oh, here we go. There's the scroll, man. There we go. Okay. Joe Mixon through Trevor Lawrence. My first reaction here looking at this, it's probably, man, this is kind of tough actually. So this is round 3. I think all of these guys are half decent values, but I'm probably going to go with Deshaun Watson because spending the 303 on a guy with a very hazy future scares me.
Well, did you hear that he's only expected to get 2 to 8 games?
I have heard that. I'll believe it when I see it. Even if he does only get 2 games, I don't know, dude. For some reason, I don't have a lot of faith in him in Cleveland. I don't have a lot of faith that he'll stay out of trouble. You know, like last or like a year and a half ago, the first allegation came out and we were like, oh shit, that's really bad. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And like even a month or 2 ago, like 1 or 2 more even came out. So it's like, I feel like we're still waiting for the other shoe to drop with Deshaun Watson. And, you know, there's been reports of a 2 to 8 game suspension. There's been reports of a full season suspension. There's been reports of him getting put on the commissioner's exempt list, you know? So it's just not a risk I'm willing to take at 303. As there's a ton of upside with Deshaun Watson, but if you're in a dynasty startup and you're going to be spending a top 27 pick on a guy with such huge red flags and such big question marks around him, I think that's risky as all hell. And, you know, I say it all the time. I'm not risk averse when it comes to fantasy, but I'm not that risky. And I'm not taking Watson at 303.
So, I mean, I don't even want to get into the whole case, and I mean, we can't really predict like player behavior or anything, but I mean, I feel like it'd be way too reactionary to not take this guy at this value, knowing that what he did in Houston when he had absolutely no one. He had DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cooks. I mean, but he's got Amari, he's got a run game here, he's got an offensive line here. I mean, he's in a great situation, I think. And
I would honestly argue his situation when he had D Hop and Brandon Cooks. Or actually I don't know. Did he actually play with Brandon Cooks, or did Brandon Cooks just show up in Houston last year? I don't even remember.
to be honest, couldn't tell you. Brandon Cooks has moved around so much, but I mean, for what you're gonna get with the rest of this guy's fantasy career, I mean, there's no doubting that he's gonna be. I mean, look at what he's done. He hasn't finished out of
Top 5 3 years in a row. Yeah.
the top five. So it's like, I mean, getting him if you wait out the 2 to 8 games, and then take that production. He's only 26 years old. He's even younger than Dak. I think Dak's 27 now, something like that. And I mean, dude, give me Deshaun Watson there all day. I was going to talk about him as a screaming value in terms of what he's going to do for your fantasy team compared to what some of these other guys are going to do. I mean, at value.
I mean, I get it. It's a risk reward play here. I think the value itself, if he hits, this is a great value. If he doesn't, obviously it's shot in the foot. If we're not playing the speculation card, right, then I'm not going to choose Deshaun Watson. If we're not playing the speculation card, I would go with Derrick Henry here. As awesome as Derrick Henry is, he's 28. He's coming off of being hurt. Tennessee is going downhill, and they're kind of going downhill fast. It's really hard to imagine Derrick Henry continuing on with the elite stretch of football that we've seen him play with over the last few years. So if we're not going to play the Deshaun Watson speculation game, Derrick Henry is going to be my pick for the worst value of the third round.
Yeah, and I think Derrick Henry is the pretty easy one, the low hanging fruit one there. Either him or Travis Kelce here. I mean, they're the two ones that are literally 1 year rentals at this point. Pretty much, you're just riding out the rest of their career, and you're never going to get value for them ever again in the future. So I mean, this is kind of the area where Julio Jones probably was drafted. I mean, I can't really remember back off the top of my head.
No, you're right. Julio Jones, even this time last year, I think he was still a top 5 round fantasy ADP.
Yeah, and we see he's going undrafted sometimes. He literally went in the last round, the very last pick almost of the startup I did last week. So yeah, I'm going either Derrick Henry or Travis Kelce there. So we're in agreement again.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty safe bet there. And Derrick Henry, whether you're playing Dynasty or Redraft, and obviously if you're watching this video, chances are you favor Dynasty. But you have to treat Derrick Henry as a redraft asset in Dynasty this year. If you know you're not going to be going for it this year, sell him immediately, or wait until the first game when Derrick Henry does what he does best and runs for 140 yards in week 1, and sell him high. His value is going to fluctuate up and down, really depending on how Tennessee is performing. And obviously, if he gets injured, his value is going to shatter because he is a 28-year-old running back. So if you got him and you're a contender, hold on to him. But if you're even sniffing a slight rebuild, I would take what you can get for him right now in the trade market.
I mean, you look at those projections that even Sleeper has from it's 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns or something
which is ridiculous. I mean, I love Derrick Henry as much.
That's
as
not happening,
but it's not happening at his age 28 season, especially coming off of a big injury, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
here we are, round 4. I will let you go first here. I already think I know who I'm going to take, but who are you looking at as a bad value here?
I think I already know who we're going to take, but since we've been kind of talking about 2 guys each time, so I'm going to lead off with Cam Akers. Can't sell me on him right now, not until I see it. Like we talked about before, we think there's a strong possibility that Darrell Henderson played well enough last year that this ends up being straight up committee. And knowing how these teams have taken steps to try and elongate their running backs' careers. I mean, Cam Akers is a guy who's coming off an injury. It wouldn't surprise me to see Sean McVay make this a really strong timeshare. And then the other one for me is Alvin Kamara, just because he's got a 6-game suspension. Yeah, he's I think 26, 27. But he's a running back. He doesn't have much time after this, right? Yeah, he's 26. Got a lot of touches under his belt, and knowing that he's going to miss well, I guess not knowing he's going to miss, but we can predict, I think, he's going to miss at least a couple games. That kind of just dampens his value for me a lot there. And I
Yeah,
also rated way lower in terms of running backs than some of these guys too.
yeah, Alvin Kamara and Cam Akers are both on the short list for me. Honestly, there's a lot in round 4 that I don't love, and every single one of them is a running back. Like I like Travis Etienne there, even though I'm not a Saquon Barkley fan anymore. Like I do like Saquon here. I think that's a fair value. Nick Chubb, kind of hit or miss for me because he doesn't have the PPR upside, but especially if Deshaun Watson gets suspended, I mean Nick Chubb could very well lead the entire NFL in rushing yards this year just by process of elimination and giving him the rock 25 times a game. But I think my least favorite ones is going to be a tie between Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins. I agree with everything you said about Cam Akers for sure, so I won't get too much into him. J.K. Dobbins, for me, he's a good running back for sure, but he's never going to be a PPR asset. He's always going to be sharing touches with Lamar Jackson, and he's always going to be sharing touches with Gus Edwards or some sort of RB2 in that Baltimore offense. Like, we obviously can't predict that Gus Edwards will be there forever. Same thing with J.K. Dobbins. But even after like J.K. Dobbins' rookie season, I'm pretty sure that's when Baltimore put like a second round tender on Gus Edwards or something. Like they want him around. They want him to play. He had shit injury luck just like J.K. Dobbins did last year. And me fading J.K. Dobbins, it really doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with his injury. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was an ACL. He'll be fine. He'll rebound from that. Might start off slowly in 2022, but he'll hit his stride. But the issue is that he's never going to have a really big workload, and he's never going to be a pivotal part of that passing game for them. And that's what bothers me because I want my running backs to have legitimate PPR upside, especially if they're going to be sharing the field with a mobile quarterback that's going to be vulturing goal line touches, that's going to have RPOs written up, So it's just not my favorite spending a top 4 round pick on J.K. Dobbins right now.
Yeah, so one thing I'll say that I agree with, I mean, I'm not going to go into J.K. Dobbins because I just talked about how much I just don't like him. And I agree with every one of your points on him, too. I mean, he's sharing touches with Lamar. He's going to be sharing touchdowns with Mark Andrews. And we don't really know what Rashad Bateman's going to be. But, I mean, we think that Baltimore likes Rashad Bateman. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have gotten rid of Marquise Brown. But I'm with you on Nick Chubb as well. I was kind of just looking at this here. I mean, he's really consistent. But, I mean, at cost, like, he's not giving you league-winning upside like even someone like Derrick Henry is giving you or Alvin Kamara is giving you. And also, I think even if Deshaun Watson does come back pretty early, I think Kareem Hunt is more likely the one to be benefiting from that. So, I mean, when you can get him at way later values in the, whatever, 10th round or whatever, wherever Kareem Hunt goes, I don't even know in this ADP. But, yeah, I think I'd rather, at cost, I'd also like to avoid Nick Chubb.
Yeah, so round 4, just a weird round for running backs. I mean, again, Nick Chubb, Kamara, Barkley, Akers, ETN, Dobbins. ETN might be a value here, but I don't think any of those guys or any of those other guys could even in anyone's mind be a good value in round 4. So we'll go ahead. We'll move on to round 5 here. And I'm so bad with this scrolling. Oh my goodness.
Sometimes it's gonna be 49 to.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well,
All right, close enough.
We're close. So top is Antonio Gibson, bottom is Aaron Jones. I already know neither one of us is going to choose Aaron Jones because of his sky high upside this year. So essentially, we're picking between Antonio Gibson and Treylon Burks. This is round 5. Who's your pick here? I think there's a pretty obvious one in my opinion, but I'm curious to hear your take.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson, hands down. I would take Treylon Burks, I think, straight up over Antonio Gibson. I think this sleeper ADP is actually really messed up, and I would probably take Treylon Burks over a handful of guys in this round. You're probably not getting the 103 from me straight up for Michael Pittman, David Montgomery, Darren Waller, any of those guys. But Antonio Gibson, with all the question marks he has, I mean, I guess you could find an argument that he could be a value if Brian Robinson is just nothing. But I mean, he was what, RB11, RB12 last year or something like that.
RB12 and RB13 back-to-back years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're drafting him as I don't see him falling out of the top 24 running backs necessarily, but I mean, with some of the other guys that are still on the board, like I'd rather bank on a top 24 receiver than a top 24 running back. In my opinion, they last longer, they're healthy more often, and most of the time you can start more receivers than you can running backs. So for me, I'm going easily with Antonio Gibson.
See, I actually disagree with you here. I don't think Antonio Gibson is like a screaming value here, but I don't think he's a bad value at all. I have him as my dynasty RB21, so it is kind of rich for my blood here in the fifth round. But Kenny Walker, way too rich for my blood here. My dynasty RB24, I think it is. There is virtually no upside whatsoever in the passing game. I mean, he is essentially Nick Chubb without being Nick Chubb, right? Like Nick Chubb is amazing at what he does. He's really good at creating those yards, finding the end zone, being efficient with a large amount of touches. We need Kenny Walker to essentially match what Nick Chubb has done over the last couple of years if he's going to return value here at 52 overall. He's got no PPR upside. He's got a shit quarterback, a shit system in Seattle this year, and he's splitting time, right? Rashad Penny was quite literally the best running back in the entire NFL for the last 5 weeks last year. And I mean, I would bank on Rashad Penny getting hurt again. And I would also bank on Chris Carson getting hurt again because that's just how it works for those running backs in Seattle. But we're also really we are banking on those injuries here. We are banking on Kenny Walker somehow getting this massive workload. And I think if you want my opinion, if I'm going to compare him to a guy, kind of a similar play style, but I'm more or less just kind of comparing like the fantasy floor and ceiling. He's just Sony Michel all over for me again. I mean, if you remember, Sony Michel was what, like a top 35 pick in the NFL draft. Kenny Walker wasn't too far behind that this year. I think he was a top 40, top 45 pick. And I see him having a pretty similar career arc. He's going to be like an over average goal line running back for sure. He's going to show good spurts here and there, but I think for the most part, he's just going to be a super average low end RB2, maybe high end RB3 most weeks. And I think people that are investing a lot in him are going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kenny Walker's career trajectory is probably a little bit higher than Sonny Michel's. I think he'll be a lead back for a while, and I think he'll be pretty successful. But like you said, with no PPR upside, I can't go for these running backs here. It's kind of one of the reasons why I went with Antonio Gibson. Like he's got no PPR upside. With Kenny Walker, he doesn't have much of that. And if I'm gonna go with a running back who doesn't have PPR upside, I mean, give me Josh Jacobs in the next round. Like we haven't gotten to that tier yet where those guys should be going. You know, I mean, Kenny Walker, you can argue with youth, but like, I mean, we never know with these running backs. You know, and I mean, with no league winning upside here, you just can't sell me on it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like we just keep talking about running backs, but it's like all of the receivers that are going in these top 5 rounds, it makes total sense why they're going here. All of the quarterbacks, or most of the quarterbacks, I should say, make sense. Like Tua here, for example, not horrendous value, but you're really taking a gamble here, right? Because we've talked about this on this channel plenty of times. If Tua can't connect with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle this year, I mean, he's canned, and he's probably not going to get a significant second chance from anyone out there because, I mean, there is probably one, maybe two better wide receiver tandems in the entire National Football League. They got a decent line in front of them. They have a very diverse backfield between Edmonds, Mostert, and Sony Michel. Like, and they have a good defense, right? So they'll be able to keep Tua nice and fresh. There's no reason why Tua should suck this year, which is why I think this is half decent value because I think he will be able to put it together. But if I couldn't pick a running back here, he'd probably be my pick because he is very risky, I think, because it's very well in the range of possibilities that he could just completely suck despite his wide receivers being awesome.
Yeah, so here's like the thing with Tua is that I think it's just as likely that the guys that are probably going to go like right after him with like Zach Wilson and those other young guys, the Justin Field. I don't know where did they go on the round before that? I don't even know.
Let's see. I know Trevor Lawrence had gone already, but
Yeah,
this This is the next round where Mac Jones and Zach
Yeah.
Wilson. So
Yes, I mean, I think that Tua has the best options, the best receivers out of those guys. So I think he's got the best chance out of that tier to succeed. So I wouldn't bag on a Tua pick there either. Because I mean, there is just such a significant drop off with the quarterbacks. Maybe you probably could have sold me on going Mac Jones over him just because. I mean, well, actually, yeah, I definitely would have gone Mac Jones over. Not even a question. But yeah.
yeah. All right. So here we are in round 6. We already scrolled down here, and I'm gonna break it up. I'm not gonna choose a running back for once. I won't lie. I don't absolutely love Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, but in round 6, I think that's pretty fair value in SuperFlex. So I'm not gonna complain about that. I guarantee I'm going to have a very unpopular pick, and I would be very surprised if at least one person watching this doesn't comment on it. Jerry Jeudy in the middle of round 6. I don't love that at all. He was very highly touted coming out of Bama, right? And he was slated to be the first rookie off the board in the NFL draft. I think he ended up being 3rd behind CeeDee Lamb, and then for some reason the Raiders took Henry Ruggs over both of those guys, which I mean, even obviously knowing what we know now, that was a bad choice. But even back then, that was a very head-scratching choice. But Jerry Jeudy, he's a phenomenal route runner. Phenomenal route runner. He's probably top 10 to top 15 in the league as a route runner. But he just hasn't been able to put it together on the football field, whether it be injuries, poor quarterback play, what have you. But I don't know. He's entering his 3rd season in the league. He has not lived up to any sort of hype, even when he is healthy. It'll be interesting to see what he can do with Russell Wilson for sure. But I'm not going to speculate and just say that Jeudy is magically going to put it together and be a 3rd-year breakout. I would say this is, if he breaks out this year and makes me look stupid, then hey, cool. I was rooting for Jerry Jeudy a couple of years ago. Now, obviously, I'm off the hype train. But looking at everyone else on the board, like I would definitely take Keenan Allen over him, 100% taking Godwin over him. Garrett Wilson and Mike Evans are both easy picks for me. Looking at my dynasty rankings here, I got Devontae Smith at wide receiver 30, and I got Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 32. So even in most case scenarios, I'm probably taking Devontae Smith as well. I mean, we saw more out of Devontae Smith as a rookie than we have in Jerry Jeudy's last 2 years. And that was despite not having anyone else on the field to help him out and having Jalen Hurts, who was perceived as a really bad passing quarterback last year. So, yeah, Jerry Jeudy right here in the middle of the 6th round, too rich for my blood.
Yeah, you kind of took a lot of the words out of my mouth. Jerry Jeudy was going to be my second. It would have been my second pick here to be the worst value. But everything you said, like we've seen Devonta Smith do more with probably pretty equivalent passing games out of Jalen Hurts, and even the guys after him with Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw him do more with Jared Goff last year too. So I'm with you on Jerry Jeudy, but the number one guy for me, who just came in looking like a nose guard, Leonard Fournette came into training camp at 260 freaking pounds. Is that a joke? That's like literally. I mean, you can't think of anybody else besides Eddie Lacy, and I don't even know that he ever got. I think he was like pushing like 240, and people were making fun of him, like 245 or something like that, and people were going crazy about him. Leonard Fournette shows up at 260 after he was just talking about retiring. That's a screaming red flag for me. And I think if I'm the Bucks, I'm really questioning giving Leonard Fournette that contract over Ronald Jones, who they just shipped off to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I disagree. I disagree because I'm not really too worried about the weight, to be completely honest with you. I think it was overstated. I think last year he was already playing at like 240 or 245. He's always been kind of a big boy. The reason why I like Leonard Fournette here, I mean, he's 27 years old. I view him in a very similar light as I would with like James Conner. Honestly, very similar light as Derrick Henry, maybe even Ezekiel Elliott. I prefer Zeke and Derrick Henry slightly more than Fournette. But I mean, here's the thing with Fournette. You're grabbing him as a guy knowing for a fact at maximum, you're getting 2 years out of him at this point in his career. He's already 27. He's not going to perform at an elite level until he's 29. Last year, he was a top 10, maybe even top 5. Let's see, what were you last year, Mr. Lenny? Top 6 in PPR. And then 2 years before that with the Jags, he was 7. 2 years before that, he was 9. Whatever, kind of irrelevant. But
Yeah, he was missing games in those years. So
Yeah, but like so we're only getting him for the next 2 years. Chances are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are only getting Tom Brady for the next 2 years as well. Leonard Fournette has proven that he can be a good PPR asset. Like he's projected 401 and 2 touchdowns, which I mean, I guess pretty similar to last year. He had 450 and 2, but that was off of almost 70 catches. Like that is big, gigantic PPR upside. With Chris Godwin missing for, 2 to 6 games of the season, with Gronk retiring, with them having just Cade Otton, a rookie tight end, and then Cameron Brate, who's like 34 years old, really isn't that good of a tight end. Leonard Fournette is going to see just as much, if not more, of a dump off volume this year. And that's all you need him to do, right? You just need him to score those goal line touchdowns, which no one's going to take away from him this year, and just to catch those dink and dunks from Tom Brady. And I think he's going to do a lot of that. So as a dynasty asset, I'm not in love with him, especially right here in the middle of round 6. But I think for what you're taking him for, it's worth the pick.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot of red flags for me when I think there's a lot of other green flags for some of these other guys. Like I said, ascending assets versus like declining assets.
Green flags. I love it.
Yeah, right.
All right. So now we are down into round 7. James Conner through Amari Cooper. I didn't even really started talking before I realized what I wanted to say. I honestly don't hate any of the value in here. If I had to pick, I'm probably going Elijah Mitchell at pick 77 overall. And it's nothing against Elijah Mitchell. It's just, well, I mean, I don't think he brings a ton of PPR upside to the mix, especially now that Trey Lance is the starter in San Francisco, and he's going to be running, an RPO offense. So maybe Mitchell benefits a little bit, but I think that Trey Lance is going to vulture a couple of touchdowns here and there from Elijah Mitchell. But San Francisco has not had the same quote unquote RB1 on their team for the last like 5 or 6 seasons now. Like every single year it changes. Kyle Shanahan picks a different guy. Elijah Mitchell was like a round 6 pick last year, while Trey Sermon was round 3. Now Elijah Mitchell was always better than Trey Sermon. People got way too drunk off of Trey Sermon's playoff run in college football when he completely tore it up. He was in college football for 4 years, and those were the only like 2 or 3 good games Trey Sermon had ever had. So he got blown out of proportion. But that's my thing with San Francisco. They have a plethora of backs, right? They have Trey Sermon. They have Jeff Wilson. They just brought in Tyrion Price, whatever the heck his name is. Couldn't even tell you right now. But this is a deep backfield. At minimum, there's going to be 4 guys here, maybe 5. I would say at least 3 are going to be active every single Sunday. And Elijah Mitchell is just a running back. He's just a guy back there. I don't think he does anything spectacular. I don't think he does anything terrible as a running back. I like the way that he plays if you're into, that hard-nosed running back football style. But it's not something that I absolutely love for my fantasy team. I mean, with that being said, if I have him as my RB2 in round 7, if I completely punted the position, am I going to cry about it? Probably not. But I'm not feeling super confident in my RB2 spot at that point. So Elijah Mitchell is going to be the guy that I'm going to fade in round 7.
Yeah, and I like him as a football player, but like everything you said, I think we're starting to talk too much because I was thinking the same thing with Kyle Shanahan's running backs. They just rotate every single year. They're never the same every year. He never has the same lead back every year. So even if he is the lead back for this year, there's no saying that they're not going to recycle through him and go to a committee the year after. So I'm with you on that one. But actually, I mean, because of how young he is, I think he could be productive somewhere else or however that might work out. He's only
He's
20.
Najee Harris's age, believe it or not.
Yeah, right. And I think AJ Dillon actually is 2, if I'm not mistaken. But
24, yep.
He's gonna be my pick here. Ironically, just because he's not a lead back. It's kind of a big drop off in the tier. Like Elijah Mitchell is a lead back this year at least. AJ Dillon's not, and I know a lot of people project him to be, but I don't really see what would stop Green Bay from going out and drafting another running back. I mean, they have held on to Aaron Jones for all this time while they've had AJ Dillon too. So they saw the value in the committee backfield. I think if I'm gonna go with a handcuff back, I don't necessarily want it to be AJ Dillon. I just don't want to pay that price for what's really the second running back of the team.
I get that, and I think that's a fair argument because Aaron Jones is going to be there for at least another couple of years, and AJ Dillon's never going to get the opportunity to be a true workhorse. And he can catch balls, but that's Aaron Jones's job. You know what I mean? And like best case scenario for AJ Dillon is Aaron Jones is on the field 90% of the time on third downs and only 20 to 30% of the time in running situations. Like if there is a world where AJ Dillon could see a 60 to 65% attempt share on the ground, because I do think they are going to be forced into leaving Aaron Jones fresh for those obvious passing downs. But yeah, I don't disagree with what you said. I have a tier of running backs, and Elijah Mitchell and AJ Dillon are essentially right next to each other in my rankings. It goes Elijah Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, AJ Dillon, and then Chase Edmonds is right underneath of them as well. Obviously, Edmonds and Helaire are two different players than Mitchell and Dillon, but when it comes to fantasy, view them in a similar light. But yeah, if I wasn't going to go with Elijah Mitchell here, I probably would have picked AJ Dillon as well. So yes, we are.
How do you feel about Elijah Moore actually here?
I like it. I like the value for Elijah Moore here. There's a lot of hype around him. I mean, we saw what he could do in a small sample size last year, right? He had 11 games, 43 catches, 538 yards, but the majority of that, I believe, was all in like a few game span here.
Mm.
So his PPR points, he had 29, 2019 or 29, 13, 27. I mean, he hit over 20 fantasy points 3 times in 5 weeks. It's a tiny sample size, right? And the Jets offense is completely different than it was last year. So it's yet to be seen what we can expect out of him. But yeah, I mean, the late 7th round with the amount of hype that Elijah Mitchell or too many Elijahs in this round.
Yeah, I know. I always mix and match when I'm talking.
It's Elijah M and Elijah M. Like, come on. But yeah, I actually do like Elijah Moore here in round 7. I would say that's pretty fair value.
Yeah, I think it scares me that they went up and got Garrett Wilson this year in the draft because, I mean, typically when you see that, those guys end up being the number 1 receiver in the offense. We saw that T. Higgins was able to withstand that, but, I mean, Elijah Moore doesn't have Joe Burrow throwing to him right now.
I was about to say, Zach Wilson ain't exactly Joe Burrow.
Yeah, so I don't know how much that target share gets split up, but for that reason, I'm actually like not really invested in either Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore. I'd actually rather wait and see how it plays out based on their price, and then if they end up panning out, I'll go buy them for the fair price, instead of trying to buy them at weird prices for I think both of them.
Definitely. All right, so that's round 7. Let's go to round 8 here. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown through Christian Watson, and I don't need to read any other names when I see Christian Watson on a list in round 8. No, thank you. Not taking him here. Yes, I see Clyde Edwards-Helaire there. I'm taking him over him. I am by no stretch of the imagination a Cortland Sutton fan, but I'm taking him over Christian Watson by a pretty wide margin. And I'm not a Cortland Sutton fan at all, right? Christian Watson, he's a fantastic athlete. But the only reason why he's getting hype is because he had a good Senior Bowl, and then he got drafted to be Aaron Rodgers' wide receiver. And I'm not even going to say to be Aaron Rodgers' wide receiver 1, because Aaron Rodgers, I don't think has ever clicked with a receiver in his first year with the team. So I really don't have high hopes for Watson. Like, if this were a redraft, I'm taking both Allen Lazard, and as crazy as it sounds, I would take Randall Cobb over Christian Watson because both of those guys have Aaron Rodgers' trust, right? Christian Watson, for me, he just doesn't do it. Just doesn't do it for me. I don't think he has a supreme amount of talent. I don't love his game. He's just a contested catch guy. It's just, I don't know, dude. He's just not for me. I don't think he's going to have a very successful NFL career. And if I'm wrong, you can make a clip of this video and just play it on repeat and say, dude, you were so wrong. But Christian Watson tested terribly in my projection models. He was a complete non-factor for me when I was doing my film grades and rookies this year. Like, there is just, with the exception of having the potential to have Aaron Rodgers throw to him. And mind you, Christian Watson is a rookie, but he's only going to have Aaron Rodgers for what, 3 years maximum. Aaron Rodgers is not going to stay in the league for more than another 2 or 3 seasons. So it's just, this is not for me. He is not for me.
So yeah, and we've actually, I think Aaron Rodgers did come out and say something like you're gonna have to have patience with like Christian Watson, because I think he went on like the Pat McAfee show and talked about it, because they asked him about Christian Watson, and he said, he's like, yeah, you're gonna have to have patience, like it's his first year in the league. I do think that he can be a really good receiver in this league. I mean, I think it's more so his dominance in college that made him more highly valued compared to what the rest of his offense did. He literally put up like, I think, 1,400, and the next highest was like 200 or something like that on his wherever it was, South Dakota State or North Dakota, whatever Dakota State he went to. Um, he was just really dominant in college. I think he could be a really good football player, but I think for me, I might diss Cortland Sutton here. Um, for the same reason, similarly as a lot of other guys. I mean, not only is he an aging asset, but he's never been a fan, like a dynamic fantasy player ever in his career. And I know he gets a big quarterback upgrade, but I mean, he hasn't really done. He's never performed well enough to win anybody a league. I mean, yeah, he'll be a starting spot in deeper leagues, and if you're starting more players and stuff like that. Um, but I'm not confident about him. I would rather take the upside that you can see with a lot of these other young guys that we've seen things from, like Amon Ra, like Darnell Mooney, like even like dude Kenny Pickett. I think that's pretty late for him, honestly. I think he's a screening value. I wouldn't really love Mike Williams here, but everyone else, like Sky Moore, we've seen all these guys do something at least. Even Juju, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we've seen them do something, and if they stay healthy and things pan out, they're in good offenses. So I'm with you with Christian Watson, and yeah, maybe James Cook might be my guy here too. Cause I'm just not in love with James Cook, but I know some people are. He's got like a weird following. I know you like James Cook.
I'm a big James Cook guy.
I guess he's just one of those guys we disagree on. But I think the one that screams out more to me is Cortland Sutton here, when there's other young guys with a lot more upside on board.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton and Christian Watson, neither one of them even gives me a wiggle down there. So I'm just we're gonna go ahead, scroll into round 9. We're only gonna do 10 rounds here. I left that off at the beginning of the video, but all right. So we ended at Christian Watson. We're on to Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox is the one getting cut off. Have a feeling neither one of us are gonna pick Dawson Knox here, so we can leave him cut off. But it's Dawson Knox through Brandon Cooks here, and
I
I
love this round, actually. I love every
yeah.
round. Besides, actually, I have one guy, but you can go first.
No, I was gonna say, like, if I'm looking at it, I like Dawson Knox here, Brandon Ayuk. I don't love Miles Sanders here, but he is the starting back in Philly, right? So it's like there is still some upside there. Damian Harris would probably be my pick here. Either him or Michael Thomas, maybe. I don't know how much faith I have in Michael Thomas to come back. I mean, he hasn't been on a football field in like 2 years at this point. I know they're saying that he's going to be making a comeback, but he's coming back to a significantly different situation. Like, what is his target share going to look like when he's sharing the field with Kamara, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry? Like, is Michael Thomas really going to dominate that, or was he just a product of not really having anyone else for Drew Brees to throw to a couple years ago, right? Like, good receiver, but between the injury risks and just not seeing him play in a while, that's a red flag for me. And then with Damian Harris, there's just so much going on in New England. I think Damian Harris will find a new team after the 2022 season. So there's definitely some upside to be found. But it's just, I don't know, dude. Ramondre Stevenson's there. James White is there. I know they just drafted, like, I think they drafted 2 running backs on day 3 this year. And I mean, he's already 25, almost had 1,000 yards last year, but his entire fantasy performance is boosted by 15 touchdowns, which I'm sorry, there's no shot he even takes double-digit touchdowns this year in that offense. You know what I mean? So it's just, I would probably choose Damian Harris as my number 1 fade in this round over Michael Thomas, but it's close.
So for me, I'm actually fading Brandon Ayuk here. Um,
Oh, dude, we can't be friends. No shot.
dude,
He's the best value this entire round.
oh, I'm sorry, dude, but his situation is just so terrible. Like it's so bad. Like if Trey Lance pans out, he basically in terms of fantasy, he's like what Jalen Hurts is probably for his receivers. And Brandon Ayuk just hasn't been able to do it. Debo's there, and it's ironic because when Brandon Ayuk first got drafted, his landing spot was regarded as one of the best because there wasn't really any receivers there at the time. Debo was hurt the entire time, you know. And I mean, but now that Debo's there, and we think he'll probably end up there for the next couple of years. I mean, I think if he was going to get moved, it probably would have been, this off season. I hate Brandon Ayuk's situation. I don't love Trey Lance as a passing quarterback. But yeah, that's just the one for me. He's like the one situation that I just really hate. I mean, I can definitely get on board with Michael Thomas because we haven't seen him in 2 freaking years after an ankle sprain. But yeah, Brandon Ayuk for it.
No, Brandon Ayuk's awesome. You're wrong. I'm not even going to. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. You're so wrong on it. It hurts me. So yeah, we can look at his rookie year and say, okay, maybe that was a product of Debo going down. But still, as a rookie, 60 catches for 748 and 5 touchdowns ain't too bad, especially when you got. I think Jimmy G was hurt off and on in 2020, so he had a combination of pretty shit. Quarterback play. Plus, it's not like Jimmy G's a world breaker, but he also only did that in 12 games as a rookie. I mean, that's pretty damn good. 750 yards and 5 touchdowns in only 12 games, as who was supposed to be basically the wide receiver 3 of this offense. Then he stepped up. Last year was a tale of 2 seasons. His first half of the season was god awful, right? Like there were talks that he could be a healthy scratch because he was out of shape, he was slow, he wasn't taking practice seriously. Like there was a lot of red flags, and Kyle Shanahan wanted nothing to do with him. And then he got on the field while Debo's balling out, while George Kittle is back being healthy, and Brandon Cook was the wide receiver 16 overall in PPR leagues for the second half of the season last year. So from week 11 to week 18, he played 8 games, and he was the wide receiver 16 overall in the entire league. And fun fact for you, even though Trey Lance played in 2.5 games, Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel, same exact target share when Trey Lance is on the field. Jimmy Garoppolo heavily favored Debo. Trey Lance spreads it around. He's going to spread it around very evenly between Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle. And you know what that means? It means probably bad news for Debo, but really good news for Brandon Ayuk. I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and be a wide receiver 16 overall throughout the entire season, but I am saying that if he's going to break out, it's going to happen this year. And I think it's very possible, even with Trey Lance stepping in, I think it's very possible that he is at least a top 24 wide receiver. I mean, look at the Carolina Panthers a few years ago. Nobody really is hyping up Teddy Bridgewater. No one has ever hyped up Teddy Bridgewater except for like the first couple of years that he was in the league. He managed to have so his entire offense was awesome, but he managed to support 3 top 25 wide receivers between Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and DJ Moore. And whether it was Christian McCaffrey or even Mike Davis, he supported a top 12 PPR running back. So there's one of the big arguments is like, how is Brandon Ayuk going to eat when Kittle is on the field, when Debo is on the field, when they have Elijah Mitchell or whoever their running back's going to be this year? And the answer is it's been done before. And if Trey Lance is what people think Trey Lance is going to be, he will be better than Teddy Bridgewater. And I'm perfectly fine with taking a gamble on that, especially here in round 9. So Brandon Ayuk, he is my favorite value here in round 9. So very disappointed to hear you say what you say.
I guess things could change. I hadn't looked into what his target share was with Jimmy G, but I mean, if you told me that he got an extra 20 targets next year, that puts him at 104. I mean, he was averaging about 10 yards a target. So, I mean, that puts him at 104 catches for 1,020 yards, yeah, 1,020 yards. So, about 200 points. Yeah, I guess he would be a value if that were the case. I guess it's yet to be seen for me, but yeah, I guess prove me wrong. I hope.
And Well, it's funny that you suggest about 200 points because in my early projections, I actually have him projected at 199 points, which in terms of my projections would be a top 27 wide receiver, which I think I would be more than happy to have a very high end wide receiver 3 with weekly upside at this point in the draft. Um, not to make this the Brandon Ayuk show here, but this is what I have, and I have to kind of redo my projections a little bit for San Francisco because I did have Jimmy Garoppolo, excuse me, taking 2 games, and obviously that's not going to be the case anymore. But Debo Samuel is projected for me 134 targets. Brandon Ayuk's projected about 120. George Kittle's projected about 115. So I think there is a world where those 3 guys can coexist very well in this offense. I think Brandon Ayuk does offer the littlest upside out of him, Debo, and Kittle for sure. But I still think there is a lot to love here. You just picked the wrong guy because I've done way too much research on Brandon Ayuk because I'm a big fan. So I got a lot of that knowledge stored in the old noggin there.
Well, I'm glad you did because now maybe I can go steal him from someone else who I can basically give that whole spiel I just gave about all the reasons I don't like him, and I can buy him for cheap from someone
You,
else.
you should try doing that in our league. I tried it and it didn't work.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, now that I know.
Well, it only didn't work because I already have him.
Oh,
No, okay. So we're going to go into round 10. This is going to be the final round that we're going to look at here. Starts off with Kareem Hunt. I can't get my scroll to go well. It's just not cooperating. But we both agree in previous videos and earlier on in this one that Kareem Hunt's a pretty decent value, especially in round 10. So I don't think we need to talk about him. So Ryan Tannehill through Christian Kirk here on this list. There's not a lot that I hate about this list, but I definitely know who I'm going to pick here. But I'm curious to see who your number 1 fade is of round 10.
I think it's between it's probably Damian Pierce. Yeah, sorry, I didn't look at this ADP before we started, but it's probably Damian Pierce. He's he's basically a complete flex play with no upside. While I see some other upside like elsewhere, I mean, in New England, we see how they operate. We see how they've operated for the last 10 years. You know, they have one running back who will go off for 2 games, and then there's somebody else for the next 2, and then it's back to the guy number 1. Then it goes to guy number 3, and then there's Sunderland guy number 7 who pops up for a 20-point game, and then that's just how New England operates. So Damian Pierce, don't really love. Oh wait, no, he's in Houston. What in God's name am I saying? I thought he was in New England. You just let me ramble on that whole time, and you were just letting me go on about it.
I knew you'd figure it out.
All right, so never mind on Damian Pierce. I guess I don't know who did. I'm thinking of Ramondre Stevenson, not Damian Pierce. But I guess Isaiah Spiller because I mean I don't know. He's gonna have a role too.
Well, you know what's really funny, and maybe we have been talking too much because my 2 guys here is also Damian Pierce and Isaiah Spiller. Probably more so Damian Pierce than Isaiah Spiller. But I'll give the argument here for Isaiah Spiller, and it's the fact that Austin Eckler's there and Isaiah Spiller was a day 3 pick. Like that's really the only argument that you need to give. Isaiah Spiller was pretty fun to watch in college, but his efficiency was fucking terrible. I'm admitting that as someone who was shipping Isaiah Spiller as the RB1 of the 2022 class. And, obviously I corrected my wrongdoings there before we did our rookie drafts and everything like that. But there's just, he could hit, right? Like he could be the next guy for the Chargers. Austin Eckler is getting up there in age, but Eckler's still going to be fine for this season. He'll still probably be fine for 2023, and he'll have some sort of role in 2024 with the Chargers, right? He's too good of a pass catcher not to. Isaiah Spiller, you're really banking on a lot, right? Like you're going to need something weird to happen to Austin Eckler in the next 2.5 years. You're going to need them to somehow not draft a running back in the next 2.5 years. You're going to need them to be out on guys like Miles Sanders, Damian Harris. There's a lot of half decent running backs that are going to be free agents next year that very well could come in to back up Austin Eckler. Like I love the upside that Spiller presents, but his floor is the absolute basement, right? Like there is a legitimate chance that Isaiah Spiller never really amounts to very much at all. and then even if he does amount to something, best case scenario, I think we talked about this in one of our other videos. Best case scenario, he'll have a similar career arc just to Chase Edmonds, right? Where he'll get a fair amount of hype here and there. He'll always be a fun player to watch, a fun player to have in PPR leagues, but he's never going to be like, I don't think there's any chance really for him to ever really have a big workload in the NFL.
Yeah, I think they drafted him to be just to elongate Austin Eckler's career and take meaningless touches from him. I don't see them ever committing to him as a three down back or even a lead back. I think he would be committee at best, completely splitting backfield. But yeah, I think Dameon Pierce does have an easier path to work in the Houston offense. So I guess Isaiah Spiller would be the one for me. But I mean, if Austin Eckler does go down for those couple of games, then he is going to be a premium handcuff there. But I just see there's a lot of upside. I mean, Kadarius Toney is a guy who yards per route run, one of the best in the league. Just got to figure it out, get on the field, give him more opportunities. Christian Kirk just got a big deal to be the number one receiver for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Matt Ryan, Davis Mills, Jameis Winston, they're giving Ryan Tannehill, they're giving what you want to draft, or what you want out of them at this point.
Yeah, just a cheap QB2 to roll the dice on for a year or two. And
yeah, literally. And then I like Jahan Dotson's upside. Chase Claypool's got upside, especially if Deontay Johnson's out of there. Rashad White, considering Leonard Fournette, didn't come in looking great, and since I'm low on him, I kind of have to be higher on Rashad White. So yeah, I guess Isaiah Spiller would be the pick here.
yeah, it's definitely between those two guys for me. Dameon Pierce, Houston, there's the Houston backfield's kind of wide open, but at the same time, it's also insanely crowded. And with Dameon Pierce, you're kind of just betting on the shiny new toy, the youngest guy in the room, right? And no one can really guess what's going to happen in Houston. Plus, Houston has an absolute shit ton of rookie picks thanks to the Deshaun Watson trade over the next couple of years. So I mean, realistically, if Houston's sitting on the clock next year and Bijan Robinson falls to day two, I mean, there's a good chance that Robinson could be a day one running back next year in the NFL draft, even though a lot of people say day one running backs are slowly going away. If he falls to day two, Houston's going to have an early pick. Guarantee you, Houston's not going to say, oh, yeah, my running back room of Marlon Mack, Dameon Pierce, and Rex Burkhead is really great. Let me skip out on a potential generational talent at running back. No, there's a very good chance Houston, with a plethora of their rookie picks in the next couple of years, could very well take an early running back. And it's kind of the same argument between him and Isaiah Spiller. I think Isaiah Spiller is a better player, but I think Pierce has a better path to relevancy. And running backs need to have a path to relevancy in their first 2 years in the league if they're really ever going to amount to anything. It's very rare that you see a running back break out in his third or fourth year. So you kind of need that in the first year or two. So, yeah, I'll take Pierce over Spiller ever so slightly, but you and I completely agree on this one. And surprisingly, we completely agreed on a lot. And I need you to check if you have a fever because we never agree.
Well, I guess it's funny. I mean, I guess we're just used to being such positive and optimistic people that we're optimistic about different people, but it seems that we're pessimistic about similar situations too. Only one or two disagreements in there. Yeah, I guess it's nice to get along for once.
It is. It is. It was really, really cool to get along. And this video was really cool. I would like us to go in, we left off here at round 10. Maybe the next video we go rounds 11 through maybe 18 or something. I don't want to go all the way down to round 20 because then you're just kind of just grasping at straws. But maybe we do rounds 11 through 18 and we pick out our favorite value at that point, right? Because anyone can pick out their favorite guys in the top 9 or 10, and everyone can say who they hate in the later rounds. Don't take
8 guys that you hate in every round, and
don't take Kendrick Bourne. He's terrible. Yeah, but it's the 18th round. Oh yeah. All right, go ahead. So next video we'll do for you guys, we're going to be taking our best value picks in those later rounds. So definitely looking forward to doing that. Before we sign off here, Tyler, any kind words for our lovely viewers?
I mean, they know how much I appreciate them. So I don't know. I already said in the beginning of the video, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Thanks for the support.
Absolutely. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, join our Discord, all that fun stuff. If you enjoyed this video or just like looking at Tyler's face, feel free to check out some of our other videos. As we mentioned earlier, this is our 15th video on the channel, and there will be 15s and 15s more for sure coming in the future. So looking forward to having you guys stick around for those. And for myself, for Tyler, and for that Dynasty show, we will see you next time.